Hey everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. If you thought I was excited when we were taking a look at Frankenstein's monster, you ain't seen nothing yet. I have been waiting for these, especially this guy right here, for probably about a year now. These were pre-ordered through Big Bad Toy Store, and if you ordered any of the first wave of Valaverse through Big Bad Toy Store, then I'm sure you got the emails, the notices, saying that it was stuck in a container, it was stuck in California, it was stuck in shipment, and that just kept going on and on and on, to the point that I was worried I wasn't going to get this figure. Now, what's refreshing to see is that not only did I get this figure, but he's up for pre-order, or he's up for sale on Big Bad Toy Store, so they do have extras of this first release Steel Brigade. But more importantly, it looks like Valaverse is re-releasing a few of their first wave figures, which you can go back and pre-order as well on Big Bad Toy Store. And I don't know if you can do it on Valaverse's website. I haven't checked yet. But I've been waiting for this guy, and I've been waiting for this especially as well. So we have two things to take a look at, and we're going to take a look at them one at a time because both of them are very different. We have the Big Bad Toy Store exclusive Declassified gear set, and we have the Action Force Wave 1 Steel Brigade figure. So let's just take a look at these and see what we got. Okay, so the first thing we're going to take a look at is the Action Force Big Bad Toy Store exclusive Declassified gear set. And bringing it up, we can see that basically, first of all, I love this artwork. I love this artwork that they did. But basically, we can see it's some clothing gear, it's a lid, it's a grenade launcher, it's a backpack. And on the back, we can even see in detail the things that we get. We even get some blast effects for it. Now, taking a look at it, seeing the color, I'm sure you can figure out what this is supposed to be for. This is for making this guy look like this guy. And yes, I have all of the card-backed figures. We'll be taking a better look at them later. But basically, not too many people were thrilled with the first release of Gung-Ho in the classified line, and I can completely understand why. I was actually one of the ones that wasn't real thrilled, because this was, to me, one of the most over-the-top additions of tech to a simple figure. Like the single shoulder pad up here, the vest that looks more like body armor, all of these horkin' huge grenades, these future weapons. This is supposed to be a grenade launcher. I have no idea. I guess this is supposed to be reminiscent of his original grenade launcher. I don't know. I liked Gung-Ho a lot as a kid. As a matter of fact, Gung-Ho was my first figure in the vintage line, was my first figure of the second wave, and was also the first thing I ever bought with my own money, with my own allowance. So Gung-Ho was big in my collection. To me, anyway. So when this came out, I was like, but hopefully this will make him look a little bit more vintage. Because truthfully, when I get these on the card backs, these, and like I said, we'll take a look at these in detail later, but these aren't coming out of the packaging. I'm keeping these actually packaged up in this card back. So let's see how we can make a Gung-Ho look with this new accessory pack that we have going on. All right, let's open this up and we'll see what we get. All right, just a couple of bags. Oh, Ziplocs. Don't have to rip them open. Come on. All right, so we got this vest. Which is pretty much just a recoloring of the same vest that we saw on Sergeant Slaughter. But I think this will work. We have a new lid. Looks like it's a brighter color, maybe a little bit more, maybe shaped a little bit more better. Shaped better for the Marines. We have this backpack, which I think is their standard mold for a backpack, but it's been colored up to his vintage colors with green stripes going across it. We have belts, we have some leg accessories, and then we have his weapons with blast effects. So let's open these as well. And the grenade launcher that's in here, we've seen this grenade launcher before. This came with the weapons pack that I got with Sergeant Slaughter, if you remember all the way back to that. So we've seen this grenade launcher before, although I think this is a better better paint job on it than what we've seen before. I think the one that I got with the weapons pack was just all one color, and that looks really cool. So let's put all of this together. We'll snap it all onto Gung-Ho, and we'll see how he looks with his declassified accessory pack. Okay, so I've removed some of the pieces from our Gung-Ho that I've peeled the vest off. I have taken off his left elbow pad and this right wrist bracer tech thing, whatever this was. And I've taken off the grenades that he had on his left thigh. Now, it's been a little bit more work than I thought it was going to put this whole thing together. I've had to use a lot of heat to get some of the pieces on. And when we take a look at Gung-Ho, I'll show you and tell you what I had to do. But this one that's on his left thigh that has these canister grenades on it is supposed to be replaced by this piece with the canteen on it. But I don't even know if all of the heat in the world is going to make any difference whenever you see the size difference in the diameter, because he has that big pouch on his left hip or on his left thigh that we'll have to wait and see. I'm curious to see if I'm going to be able to fit this piece on, because all of these pieces were basically made from like standard generic Valaverse accessory pieces that even if we pull our desert rat here and we take a look, this is basically the same piece, just colored differently. And you can see this is a standard leg on here. So we'll have to wait and see if this will fit. All right, so here he is, all complete, our declassified Gung-Ho. And I have to admit, he's not bad. He's not perfect, but he's not bad. And if you're like me and you have one of these and you wanted to keep the card-backed figure in the package, and you could either only get one, or you could only find one, or you only wanted to buy one, or whatever, and you wanted to keep him in the package, that for $15, this is not a bad stand-in for a more vintage-looking Gung-Ho, because while this is completely vintage and looks like our 3 3/4 figure all grown up, including the teal turquoise camo pattern, this legit looks like a classified version of Gung-Ho. This looks more like what I would have expected Gung-Ho to look like without all of this tech and kibble and whatnot and these Nerf gun blasters that he has. So he still has our green camo pants, but he also still has like that turquoise blue accenting going on for him. So let's bring him up closer and let's take a closer look at him. That I did have some struggles getting some of these pieces on. We'll go over it one by one. First of all, I love the grenade launcher. I love the grenade launcher more than anything that came with him stock. And also the thing to remember is that this grenade launcher that comes with the vintage figure, that doesn't exist. That's not a real weapon. They made that up for the figure back in the 80s, and I'm pretty sure something like this still doesn't exist. Now, they do have single-shot grenade launchers that look like this, but it's not this... I think this was supposed to be like almost a pump-style grenade launcher. I'm not sure, but this doesn't exist. This one, however, does, and I feel like that if Gung-Ho would have gotten a more modern version other than this is what he would have, or at least should have, come with. Now let's get this out of his hand. And come on. There we go. Now, you can see his arms are a little bare, but then again, so is that right there. He still has these cuffs right here that could either be wristbands or the ends of his gloves. I took off the silver armored piece that went on this wrist, and I took off this lone elbow pad that he had hanging off the back for no reason at all. So now he has the bare arms. He has a little bit more of a bare chest too, because this vest is much smaller and more open than this vest was. Also, Gung-Ho has a larger buck than the Valaverse figures do, especially Sergeant Slaughter here. You can see he's broader in the chest and his shoulders rise up more. So this is the vest that was on the Valaverse Sergeant Slaughter, but it's a little tight on Gung-Ho, and looking at it, it doesn't look bad, but it does sort of hinder the arms because it's digging into his armpits right there. Now, somebody who's more industrious than me may take a Dremel or a knife and just carve that out a little bit. Personally, for me, it's a little annoying, but I can live with it. All right. Now we get down here that these pieces, because of the thickness of Gung-Ho's legs, these were probably the biggest bear to get on. These are what I had to apply the heat to the most. Because like I showed you on Desert Rat here, the standard Valaverse legs are way thinner than what these are. So these pouches slide right on there. And this may even be a little bit loose on Desert Rat. But I had to apply a lot of heat on these to stretch these out over these big thighs, over the pants wrinkles, over the dual pouches that he had going on. So if you apply enough heat, you can slide it on. I'm just curious to see what happens once it cools down and once it starts to hold form, what's going to happen. Will it just conform to that and then never move again? Or will it start to stretch and deform and maybe even rip or break in the future? We'll have to wait and see. Now his belt is surprisingly loose right here. That his belt is the thing that I've been having to screw around with the most once it got on him. It looks good. Oh, I also had to pull the legs off. I originally, when I was putting heat on it, I was going to try and just pop the torso off, but in pulling, the legs came off easier than the torso. So I just pulled off both legs, slid the belt up from below, then popped both legs on. So it looks good, but it does get to be a bear when you're trying to pose him because it does want to pop and move around. So I always find myself repositioning that thing. Now we get to his lid, and this is a little disappointing. Like, I like the shape, I like the coloring. It definitely stands out more than the one that he comes with, but I feel like it's a little tight on him, maybe even a little small. I don't know, because you have that. Let's pull the one up that he has. Whoop. And then you put this one on him. Oh, no. Maybe not. Maybe it's the same. Maybe Gung-Ho just has a big dome. Maybe that one does fit better. I don't know. When I first put it on, I thought it was a little small, but whoops. Now looking at it, once you can get it to go on, because it's not shaped the same way that the original one was. The original one, I feel, is definitely shaped better to fit around his head. But I think this one is closer to what that marine cap actually looks like. So, I don't know. Maybe I will keep that one on. Oh, it just seems like it sits high on his head. But pulling this forward, it looks like that might be the same size. I'm not sure. But we'll leave that one on for now. Now on his back, like I said, we have the turquoise backpack that is, I believe, their standard first wave backpack, just in different colors and coloring for Gung-Ho. And something that I liked about it that I didn't know the Valaverse backpacks do this, and I don't know if they're supposed to or if this one's just loose, but they actually open. And I'm storing his blast effects in there. So in addition to being able to have all of his weapons on him, which I'll show you the pistol in a second, there's a little compartment in his backpack to hold his blast effects, which that's just cool. I didn't know the backpacks did that. Suddenly I want to get that backpack accessory pack for the first wave of Valaverse just to give our boys some extra storage. Now down here on one of his leg accessories, he has his pistol. He has his holster for his pistol. And in there, he has a really nice Colt 1911. And I like that. I've always been a fan of the 1911, and this is a very well done sculpt of a 1911, especially for something that's so small. And just like the grenade launcher, you just push and twist. And there he goes. It looks good in his hand. I like that. So like I said, he's not perfect, but I do think he looks pretty good, especially when you consider what this figure looked like when it started, with so much tech, so much useless kibble, weapons that he really couldn't hold very well, and you really weren't sure what they were. Now, this is definitely a vintage figure all grown up. The color scheme, the look, the weapons, even this turquoise camo pattern that he has going on down here. And as I said at the beginning of the video, this figure, this look will always be special to me. 3 3/4 version of this, first thing I ever bought with my own money. Felt so good when I was a kid, loved having him. He was always part of the mission because of that. But if you look at this with actually having green camo pants instead of this turquoise camo right here, this to me looks like a more classified version of what Gung-Ho should have looked like. Like, to me, this looks like what this figure should have evolved into. With the camo pants, the blue is a more subdued green, like it's actually blue, that it actually looks more denim, like he's wearing a denim vest rather than this turquoise look over here. So I love that I have this. I like that I have this. And if you can't find this, if you want something other than this and you want to keep this in the package like I am, for $15, and I'll put a link in the description below, for $15, I don't think this is a very bad alternative, especially if you have the original Classified Gung-Ho. Okay, now with Gung-Ho out of the way, let's get to the Steel Brigade. And this is what I have been most excited about. As a matter of fact, I'm surprised that when I backed the Valaverse Kickstarter for the first wave, that this isn't the figure I picked as my Kickstarter figure. Like, I picked Sergeant Slaughter as my Kickstarter figure, and I forget what my reasoning was at the time. I think I was worried that he was going to sell out, or he was going to be a limited edition or something, but this is the one that I was the most excited about. Let me give you some backstory on what the Steel Brigade is and what it was for G.I. Joe. It was 1985. I remember it like it was yesterday. And G.I. Joe always had some sort of mail order, collect all of these points, these flag points, send away, get a figure. They did it with Hooded Cobra Commander. They did it with Super Trooper. They did it with William the Refrigerator Perry. They actually did it with Sergeant Slaughter in the first incarnation before he came out with the Triple T. And one of the other figures that they had was the Steel Brigade. And the idea was that you could be a Joe. The Steel Brigade figures were you. That you sent in information, you sent in what you wanted your military specialty to be, you filled out the file card, your name, your birth date, what you wanted your weapon specializations to be. You filled out everything, your code name. And then they sent you a Steel Brigade figure with your own file card, and you were a member of the G.I. Joe team. And when my collection was taken from me, when my vintage collection was taken from me, the Steel Brigade figure was one of the ones, if not the one, that hurt the most. Because when you're a kid, every kid wants an action figure made of them. And when we were kids, because of the limitations of technology and time and shipping and blah, 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 the Steel Brigade was as close as we got, and it was great. My guy, I was a pilot. My code name was Hard Deck because I had just seen Top Gun. So I was a naval aviator. I flew the Sky Striker. It was fantastic. So now we have Steel Brigade brought to us by Valaverse, and the figure inside, which we'll see in a minute because I know my lights are reflecting off of all of this, but the figure inside is actually really, really close to what the original Steel Brigade figure was. And I couldn't be happier about that. Even if we flip it around to the back and we read the file card, the Steel Brigade is the code name for the support squadron within Action Force and is comprised of 80 shooters trained as the unit's own QRF, or Quick Reaction Force. Hailing back to the days of Vietnam of the Mike Force, the Steel Brigade is the only unit of its kind capable of providing an armed support element to the primary assault force during missions. So basically, this is an army builder. It even has code name, various, file name, classified, primary military specialty, special forces. Like, all of this was actually selected by you. What your branch of the military was, in the G.I. Joe version, I mean, what your branch of the military was, what your specialty was. Like I said, I was Navy. I was a naval aviator, a Navy pilot, codename Hard Deck. I'm so excited to be getting this guy. and I just want to get him out of the box. Now, like I said at the beginning, he has been sitting in a container for a very long time, and you can even see on here, I don't know if you can see if I bring it up too close, but you can see like scratches and marks, and with the way that the Valaverse figures had stiff joints the first time around, I'm kind of worried about the condition he's going to be in when we get him out of the box. But let's get this guy open. Let's open him up. All right, here he is, our Steel Brigade figure out of the box, and putting the tape measure to him, we can see that to the top of his helmet, he comes in at 6 3/8. Okay, now bringing him closer, first of all, let me just say that this is pretty much a really good modern representation of what the original Steel Brigade figure looked like, right down to the helmet and the coloring and just the whole look and feel of him. I really, really love this. That this is, if you'll pardon me actually making the comparison, what a G.I. Joe classified version of the Steel Brigade figures would look like. And thank you so much, Bobby Vala, for putting, the childhood dream back in our hands. Because, like I said, losing him when my collection was taken, that hurt. Losing Hard Deck, that really hurt. Now, we have some really good coloring right here up in the helmet with the silver, the gray, the blue, the visor. That visor being like, I don't know, a teal, a turquoise, whatever color you want to say that is. And he still looks mean. I believe on the original figure that the visor was blacked out, but that was a 3 3/4 inch figure. I understand why they didn't just black out the entire visor. You would lose a lot of detail like that. And this coloring, like, that just looks mean. That looks intimidating. That looks great. I love the design of this helmet. Now, the helmet does pop off fairly easily, and we have our ball joint right here on a hinge that if you happen to find a head that you think looks like you, and you can pop it on, and he's holding his helmet, and you better believe that come September, or whenever it is that we get the selfie series from Hasbro, that yes, I'm absolutely going to pay $60 to get a 3D printed head of myself to put on this figure. You better believe that's happening. And then the helmet just pops right back on. And then we get down to the vest. And the vest, I think, is standard fare. I think this is a general vest that they released with either one of their accessory packs, or it may have even been on Falcon and some of their... Was it Falcon? I can't remember the names of their figures. I apologize. But I think this vest may have actually been on some of their standard fare figures. But I like that it's battle damaged. Like, Hard Deck has seen some action. He's seen some rough and tumble. And you have the Steel Brigade symbol right there. You have pouches down here for spare magazines for his M16, I think it is, his assault rifle. You can see those pop right out, which he won't be using those, and I'll explain why when we get to the accessories. And on the back, you have the flap so that you can pop this open and you can peel this off, and you can see underneath that it's basically just a blue and gray bodysuit shirt that he's wearing. Now, I always have problems getting these on, and it may just be me, but the top one seems to pop in with no problem. It's the bottom one that I have a hard time getting to hold form. So, if you remember, I had a problem with this with the Mantis Trooper that I have. But give me a second and let me pop this back together. Alright, yeah, the top one always goes in easy for me. It's the bottom one that you kind of have to stretch and wiggle it back and forth and get it to seat in there properly. Eventually it does get back in there. It's just not as easy as the top one. Now we get down to the legs, and even the coloring of the legs, because in the original Steel Brigade, I don't think it was camo, I think it was just the standard green. The idea was that the look of the figure could fit pretty much any military specialty that you wanted it to. That with even this figure does the same thing. With this flak vest on, he could be any ground infantry, he could be a tanker, he could be whatever you want him to be. With me, he's going to be a pilot, that even if you wanted him to be a SEAL, you could imagine that this is his helmet with the rebreather up front, and you pop this vest off, and he has this blue and gray suit underneath that could be the top of his wetsuit, and he's just wearing uniform trousers, uniform slacks on over the bottom of it. I don't know how wetsuits work. I've never worn one. I imagine it's not that easy wearing pants over top of it, but you get the idea that you can customize these figures, outfit them with new gear, do whatever you want, and your figure can be you, can be your figure. I am so excited to have this back in my hands that we bring it up closer. And like, they even did a really good job on the boots. And I don't think, no, these aren't the same boots that came with Slaughter. Now, I don't know, because the ones that came with Slaughter are standard Marine lace-up combat boots. I don't know if these are the standard boots on the other Valaverse figures, because right now, for the good guys, for Action Force, all I have are Steel Brigade, Desert Rat, and Sarge. So maybe these are the standard issue legs for the rest of the Valaverse line. I don't know, but it looks really good on our Steel Brigade figure right here. And then he has his utility pouch over here, and his holster for his pistol over here, and on back, he has a sheath for his knife, which I love how they just put it across the small of the back like that. I really do. Now, bringing him up closer, and we're going to talk about his articulation, and he was so stiff when I got him out of the packaging that, like, there were parts that I was worried, even applying heat to them, wasn't going to loosen. I was worried parts were going to break, but I put him in heat, I put him underwater, and he eventually did loosen up. He's still a little stiff, but I have a feeling that much like Sarge, the more use we get out of him, the more the joints will loosen up. So I'm not as worried about it now. But looking at the head, he can do a full 360 spin. Little bit of tilt, not a whole lot. He can look up really well. He can look down really well and bury the chin. You saw you have that ball joint with the dumbbell in there. His arms will do a full 360. He has a butterfly joint. Wow. Since I loosened that up, wow, that butterfly joint has some really great travel in it. Okay. The arms, get into focus. The arms are still a little stiff, but they'll go up past 90. He has the bicep swivel. He has double jointed elbows with some decent travel. And is that stiffness to them, or is that... No, I think that's it. The cloth, the wrinkles won't let it go in any further. Wrists will swivel, and the wrists do pivot, and these ones, the fists, pivot in and out. The trigger fingers, which we'll take a look at, go up and down. Now, the wrists on all of them were really stiff as well, first time getting them moving. But it wasn't heat that I applied to do it. I think what happened was the paint apps were applied, and it kind of dried and made the wrists hard to move. Because once I broke the seal, and you can even see right there where the black is coming off, but once I broke the seal of the wrists, all of them moved easily on their own. And remember, this was Valaverse's first wave of figures. They were still working out the kinks. They were still perfecting their craft. So you can cut them some slack for things like that. Now, underneath this, he does have an ab crunch, but the vest is so heavy that it doesn't really give him much. He can go forward, not so much back, but he also has a ball joint at the waist that he can get some really good twist going on. He can go all the way around. You got some side-to-side action going, and he can pitch forward. He can pitch forward. He can pitch back. You can see right there where the ball joint is. And the vest does continue to get in his way a little bit. But we've seen that before, not only with the Valaverse figures, but even with the Hasbro G.I. Joe figures like Breaker and guys like that. Now, he does have drop-down legs. They can come out pretty much to 90. The legs will go forward really well. The legs will go back okay. Thigh swivel, hidden by the straps of his leg pouches. The knees, double jointed knees with some decent travel. The knees were some of the stiffest parts of this figure when I got him out. As a matter of fact, is it on this one or is it this one? One of these. Yeah, right there. You can see a little stress in the plastic already, and that kind of made me nervous. But I think he'll be fine. And then he had, whoa, the boot cut's still really stiff. Then he has the boot cut, ankles rock back, ankles rock forward, and a forward-facing pin for some rocker. And that's still a little stiff too. I think I may have missed heating up the feet as much as I did the rest of him. But, with the issues with the articulation, which to be fair, we knew was going to happen. Bobby Vala himself announced that when the first wave came out, and after sitting in a container for almost a year, especially over the summer that we've had, kind of expected that as well. But it is fixable. It's nothing that's going to ruin the figure, and it can be taken care of, and I am so glad. Out of the box, the Steel Brigade figure comes with a pair of clenched fists. He also comes with a pair of non-trigger fingered gripping hands. He comes with a pair of hands with trigger fingers on them. And finally, he comes with a pair of these unique cradling hands, which I know I've said it in every video I've done for Valaverse action figures. These are probably some of my favorite additions of hands to a figure, because if we pop this hand back in with his assault rifle, the idea is that this hand cradles the underside of the barrel. And look at how good that looks. I know it's all black. It may be hard to see in the camera, but doesn't that just looks so natural and so good? And you're not trying to stretch a gripping hand to fit around the barrel. It just cradles in there naturally. And speaking of the assault rifle, let's take a better look at it, because I really like the detail, the attention to detail that Valaverse gives their weapons that come with their figures and their weapons packs. Instead of this being molded all in a bland black and you lose some of the detail, they actually add some paint apps to their weapons, which are greatly appreciated. Now, of course, the front of the barrel up here is black. It's a grenade launcher. What else are you going to do with it? But the magazine is painted silver. The action is painted silver. And also, we saw that with the magazines on his vest, the magazine does pop out of the assault rifle so that your guy can hot swap magazines in the middle of a firefight. Now, at the end of the barrels, we have pinholes for adding blast effects onto it, that we can put one in the top barrel right there. But one thing that I didn't realize was with these rifles with the grenade launchers, they're bored out that they can take blast effects as well, so you can have a blast effect for your grenade launcher going off. That's cool. I appreciate that. I didn't know that actually happened on here, and I am totally digging that. Now, when we were looking at him before, you saw that he has a knife sheath on his back, so of course he's going to have a knife. And once again, I really like the detail work that they put into something as small and as simple as this knife right here, with the handle black and the blade actually painted silver. And it may look like that it's two tones of silver in the light, but it's not. It's just shiny enough that it's reflecting my studio's lights like that. And I even like the serration on the top. Like, they do some really good work on their weapons right here. And then this, you have this sheath on the back of his vest. It just slips right in. Is that upside down? Nope, that's right. It just slips right in like that. It looks good, and it's not going anywhere. And finally, he has this pistol that when I originally looked at this pistol that came with the weapons pack that I got with Sergeant Slaughter, I questioned whether or not this was like a future weapon that Valaverse made up for their Action Force line, but somebody in the comments did tell me that this is an actual weapon. And after they told me that, I looked it up, and I'm still not 100% certain on what it is or what its purpose is, but I think with this underneath the barrel here, I think this is a form of integrated gas-powered suppressor. I think that's what it is. But we also have a bore hole up front that we can put blast effects in that as well. And I like that. And then he has our Action Force, our Steel Brigade guy, has this sheath on the side, or this holster on the side, that it fits right in there. It has a good tight fit, and it's not going anywhere. Now, having said all of that, and going back to what I said before about how you can customize your own Action Force figures, or I'm sorry, your own Steel Brigade figures to make them who and what you want them to be, I don't like this pistol. I don't like the look of it. It looks clunky to me. I don't know. I just don't like it. What he will be using, what my guy will be using, will be this Desert Eagle that I got out of the accessory pack, the weapons pack that I got when I picked up Sergeant Slaughter. And you can see that the weapon just fits into his hand, push and twist, and there you go. He has a decent grip on it. What I really wanted was a 1911, but I don't have any spare 1911s. I'd really like to get that one, another accessory pack maybe from Gung-Ho. But then the other problem is that the sheath that he comes with is way too big for the 1911. As a matter of fact, the Desert Eagle fits in there fairly well, but it's not... Of course, it's going to make a liar out of me. I was going to say it's not a tight fit, but... Well, you see it did shift a little bit. But it still works for that. So Hard Deck will be using that Desert Eagle, even though I like the look of it better. I like the look of this better than I do this. Even though this is probably one of the most impractical pistols to use for combat, I still like it better than the one that he came with. And something else that all of our Action Force figures come with is this display stand with this diamond tread and Action Force etched into it. I really like the look of these stands. I like the presentation of these stands. And then when you turn it on the side, you can see that it has 4 pegs. So you have a number of options on how to display your figure on this figure stand. And also, like we've seen before, there is this trenching down the back of it, which I always dig that. Like from the very beginning, I always like the idea of that is for the file card, that if you cut the file card out of the back of the box, you can pop the file card on the display stand, and then you have card and figure all together for your display. And then finally, 2 accessories that we got with our Steel Brigade figure that are going to be unique to this figure is this Steel Brigade sew-on patch. And I love this. The original Steel Brigade figure came with a sew-on patch as well, but instead of having like a symbol like this, it had the Steel Brigade symbol, but then it had the helmet, basically the head of your figure included in the patch. And this is a great touch. I really appreciate this. I won't put this on anything. I'm just going to keep this. I don't think I have anything to sew this onto anyway, but I just really appreciate that. And then the final piece is this, your Steel Brigade official unit dossier that you can put a fingerprint here, you can put his code name there, his file name there, his birthplace, his primary military specialty, secondary skills, his background, and then his assessment. That basically this is the file card that you would have gotten with your original Steel Brigade figure. And since they don't have the file card printing like they did back in the 80s, they just gave you this, which is great. Like, oh man. I can't tell you how much I love having this figure back in my collection. Oh, this is going to be fantastic. And now for size comparisons, here I am with the Valaverse Action Force Desert Rat and Sergeant Slaughter. Here I am with Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Cobra Trooper and Gung-Ho, because why not? Here I am with McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, Gotham Knights Red Hood, and Injustice Deathstroke. Here I am with Lanyard Toys City Hunter Predator and Xenomorph Drone, because at some point I will fight a Predator. And finally, here I am with Jazzwares Spartan Collection Master Chief and Noble 6, so you can see me pre- and post-augmentation. It took about a year to get in, but for me, these figures were well worth the wait. Well, one figure, one accessory pack was well worth the wait. I think Gung-Ho looks good. I keep on saying it. He's not perfect, but I think he looks good. And he's a really decent stand-in if you don't have the card-backed, classified, vintage-looking figure. Even right now, just looking at him, I think he looks so much better, 10 times better than the original look of the classified figure. And as for the Steel Brigade figure, oh man. Oh, it was killing me. The weight was killing me. I was even worried that they weren't going to come, and I was worried that I'd missed out on my chance to get this figure to add to my collection. But here he is, and I couldn't be happier. I really am. I really do feel like a kid again, getting so excited about this figure that I am in G.I. Joe again. I know it's an Action Force figure, but let's be honest, we all know it's getting added to my G.I. Joe collection. And the fact that I'm going to be able to look at a figure again and go, yeah, that's me, especially once I get that Hasbro Selfie Series figure, oh, it's going to be on. Like, I'll be on cloud 9 at that point. So I don't know if they ever plan on making a 6-inch scale Sky Striker. I think it would be ridiculous if they did. It would be expensive. It would be huge. Realistically, where would you put it? What would you do with it? And I can only imagine the price tag on it. But now, I don't know. If they came out with a HasLab Sky Striker, I might have to get it just so Hard Deck would have his ship back, his fighter back. Like, there are so many things going through my head about like what I want to do with this guy, how I want to customize him, the gear I want to outfit him with, and I'm not going to fill out his dossier. I have other plans for that, which I'll even be making videos on that later. Like, this is definitely not the last you've seen of this Steel Brigade figure. Now, as far as how the figure is, I'm totally biased in this, but I think he's a great looking figure. I think once you loosen up the articulation, he moves very easily. You do have to hit him with some heat if you're getting the first run of the figure. I'm guessing that the reissue figures that you can get on Big Bad Toy Store, and there will be, as always, there will be links to all of this in the description below, but I feel like the reissues that we're going to be getting are probably going to step around that stuck stiff joint issue that the first round of Valaverse Action Force figures had. And don't forget that Valaverse now has female Steel Brigade figures out, something G.I. Joe didn't have. So, ladies, if you want to be part of the team, there are options. I really dig the sculpt on this, and even though it basically does use the generic body of the Action Force figures, I really, really like the helmet. The helmet, the coloring, the symbols on the vest, the battle damage on the vest, everything looks great. It's a great figure to add to your collection, whether you're talking about Action Force or whether you're talking about G.I. Joe. Like, he's going to fit in anywhere. And like I keep saying, he's going to fit in because he's you. That's the whole point of this figure. You get an action figure of yourself. And it's fantastic. It was a great idea in the 80s. It's a great idea now. I'm amazed more companies don't do something like this, that they put out a unique looking figure that could arguably be an army builder, and they just say, hey, this one is you, fill out this dossier, here's some extra kibble, here's some extra stuff, here's a patch, go crazy, love it. And I do love it. And thank you, Bobby Vala, for putting this back in my hands. I'm so excited about having this one, but we will be moving on. We have lots of other stuff to be taking a look at. I got a lot of stuff to be taking a look at. As a matter of fact, I think what's coming up next is going to be a look at another whole wave of McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse figures. So until that happens, my friend, play well, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.